Fortnite, my last 2 weeks in gaming. Over the last 2 weeks I got to play some new and exciting things. One of the newest and excitingest is a game called Cthulhu Wars. This is a game that was on Kickstarter a couple of years ago, but it just recently shipped. The monsters of the Lovecraft universe have more or less won, and now it's a mop-up operation as their various factions compete with one another over control of a post-apocalyptic Earth. What you're trying to do here is you're trying to gain 6 spell books. Each player has a different faction, and each of those factions have 6 different goals, and when you meet one of these 6 goals you get a spell book, and that spell book gives you a power. So it's very, very asymmetrical, which is a cool design. So the different factions have various monsters that can be summoned, including the Great Old One for each of the factions. You're moving your cultists around the board, you're establishing gates to these other dimensions and trying to bring forward those monsters into this world to battle for supremacy. Think of it as an area control game meets Risk meets Arkham Horror. If you put all those things together, except for you're playing on the monster side, that's kind of a feel of Cthulhu Wars. But what's the big selling point here is not the gameplay. The big selling point here is the miniatures. These things are crazy. They're huge, giant miniatures that are very detailed. The sculpts on these things are fairly awesome. There's so much plastic it goes into even one of the Great Old Ones. There's no wonder why the price tag on this game is as high as it is. So we got to play it. Is it any fun? Kinda. It's kind of fun. I got to play as the Black Goat faction. My job was to spread out as wide as I could, summon as many monsters as I could, and try to control as much area as possible. This went poorly for me. I made 2 bad decisions, I fully admit that, in the first 2 turns. Each of the first 2 turns I made a decision that was not a good decision, and because of that I was behind the 8 ball for the entire rest of the game. So basically 2 bad decisions and then an hour of waiting to lose. Which isn't a good experience for anybody. But in that time I tried to at least look at the other players and what they were doing and get a sense of how it all plays. Each monster is very different. Each faction is very different. Cthulhu is all about attacking every turn. Nyarlathotep is about hiding and flying, and they're able to move around a lot. They've got some odd powers that mess with battles. So each of the factions does have a different feel, which is pretty cool. I have no idea if it's balanced or not. You'd have to play this thing dozens of times to figure that out. In the end, though, it's okay. It's okay. There are better area control games, there are better battle games, there are better Cthulhu-oriented games. So this one, what does it really have going for it? It has these really big, extraordinary-looking miniatures that are fun to move around the board. And that's about all. So at this point, I would absolutely play it again. I would try this one again just to play a different faction and see how that feels. But for the moment, it's rated for me at a 4 on Board Game Geek. This one is going to retail for $200. I can't see paying that personally. My advice to you is if you want to try it, find somebody you know that has already bought it and try theirs and see what you think. And if you fall in love with the game, go out and get it. But otherwise, this is probably one you're best playing other people's copies. And that's it for this edition of the Fortnight. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Hopefully in this next 2-week span I'm going to have another playthrough up on the channel. I'm working on a playthrough of Suburbia. It's the solo variant, one of the 2 solo variants for Suburbia. Hopefully that'll be going up here in the next couple of weeks. And 2 weeks from now we'll have another Fortnite out too. So until then, thanks for watching.